Hi there, it's Mindy from My Creative Scoop, and I'm back with another tutorial for my favorite things. Today I'm going to be using the new Bear Hug Bunch stamp set and also the Big Hugs circular die. We're going to be creating a Distress Oxide Galaxy Sky background as well as doing some Copic coloring. So let's get started. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to take our card base and we're going to sponge the Galaxy Sky background straight to the card base. We're going to start with the lightest colors, so we'll do the picked raspberry first. And we're just going to pick and choose little spots here that we're going to cover. And then we'll move on to the Wilted Violet. I'm going to put the light colors down first, so that way when we add the dark chip Sapphire, we could mute these. So that way it just looks faded and that you get more of that galaxy look. Okay, so now we'll go ahead and take that chipped sapphire and add that really dark blue so that way we can get that really night sky look, and we can mute the pink and the purple. So since we have more purple down, that's where I'm going to start. So that way some of the areas have the really dark blue, but then I'm fading it into the purple. So that way we can see all these colors. And as I go over the pink, I'm gonna go over it completely, but I'm not going to press as hard, so that way you can still see that pink shining from underneath. All right, so now let's go back and add a little bit more of the purple. And let's add a little bit more of the pink, but since I don't want to mess up my brush, I'm gonna add the pink color and then we're gonna add it to the paper and then we're gonna wipe off the brush. So I'm gonna stay right in the areas where I added the pink just to kind of pull it out a little bit more. And see, I got a little bit of that purple on there, so I'm just taking my microfiber cloth and just wiping it off so that way there's not any more purple on the brush. We'll do the same thing down here to add more pink. And a little more over here. Let's touch up where my fingerprints were with the dark blue. All right, so now we're gonna go ahead clean up this mess and get some water so we can add a little bit of splashes so we can get the distress oxides to react. I don't like taking my water bottle and spraying it directly to my card. I feel like it gives too much. So what I like to do is just spray my fingers and then give a couple of flicks. We'll take the paper towel because I don't really want them to drip. I want it to be like splatters. And if it came out too much, you can always go back and touch up with your brushes just to kind of tone it down, put a little bit more color back in there. If you want more of the pink to shine through or more of the purple. So I'm just going to go over it just to tone it down a little bit so it blends better. Softens it up, but you can still see them. Okay. So now I'm going to take a white gel pen and we're going to add some sparkles and stars to our sky. Before we do that, I'm going to add a little bit more of the darker blue. Just here and there. Because right before I was going to add the white, I noticed that it's very, very purple and I want it to have more of a blue. So let's just add a little bit more. Okay. So now we'll go ahead and take our white gel pen. And you're going to want to do this all over. I like making circles, and then I'll make little T's, and then I'm going to dot. So T's, circles, dot. Then you want some of them to be really, really close together. And then some of them are going to be more spread out, so there's little gaps in between. And you're going to do this all over your Distress Oxide background. Okay, so here is our little galaxy that we've created, and now we're going to go ahead and finish assembling the card. Okay, so I've taken a piece of white cardstock and I've cut a stitch circle out of the center so that way I have the stitching going around the center, and I've put some double-sided foam tape onto the back of my piece of white cardstock so I could lay it in the center. Now this piece of cardstock is cut at 4 by 5 1/4, so that way I have a nice thick border from the background that we created still showing. I think having all this white over it really makes it pop. So I'm just gonna lay this down right in the center. And then I've cut out my Big Hugs circle from the new stamp set, or I'm sorry, from the new die set, and we're just going to glue it flat right in the center. And we'll let that dry and set it aside so we can color our images. Okay, so we're using the stamp set Bear Hug bunch from the new release, and I love how this tree can either go as a branch or a tree, so it's very, very versatile. So we're going to color with our Copic markers. I've stamped my images in Memento black ink and stamped onto my Copic Express It blending card. I'm going to be using E44 and E43 for my tree. So I'm going to start with my E44, and right where these little lines are, that's where we're going to go ahead and add the shadows. Not every single area needs a little shadow, but for the most part, we're going to go ahead and add them where those lines are. And then we're going to take E43 and we're just going to fill in the rest of the tree. Actually, we have a little space here. We're going to use some E42. So you want to come down a little bit, pulling some of that E44 out. And then we're going to take the E42 and just touch up those few little areas that are still white. So just lay the marker down and fill it all in. And then we're going to take G85 and G82 and we're going to color in the leaves. I'm going to start with my G85 and add a little bit of a shadow towards the bottom. And then we're going to take the G82 and fill in the rest of those leaves. Then we're going to go ahead and give a little bit of a shadow to the cloud. So I'm going to be using N0, N1, and N3. We're going to start with the N3. And I'm going to come around the bottom part. So I'm just going to trace the image right along the bottom, making a really nice deep shadow since we have a nighttime sky. And I'm only going up halfway. Then I'm going to take my N1 and we're going to do the same thing, just coming up a little bit higher. You may have to go back and forth a couple of times so you get a nice blend between the two colors. I apologize for my dog. He keeps making little bark noises because we just had a delivery and he still thinks somebody's out there. And then we're going to take the N0 and I'm going to flick going up, getting a nice blend right along the edge of that N1. And I'm almost filling in the entire cloud. There's just a little touch of color right at the top, or I'm sorry, of white right at the top. All right, so now for the bear. We're going to be coloring him with W5 and W7 and W3 and W1. I'm going to start with my W5. We're going to go ahead and add some shadows to him. So I'm going to make this part of the mouth a little bit lighter, so we're going to add the shadow back here underneath the arms, underneath this arm, on the inside parts of the leg, underneath his tummy, and a little bit behind the ear and on the back of this ear. And then I'm going to take my W5 and blend that out. So I'm just coming out a little bit more. So with each new lighter color, we're starting to fill in the bear a little bit more, but we're also extending that line. So right here where I just stopped with that W7, we're going to extend it going up a little higher. So that way it blends it out. And then we're going to take the W3, same thing, we're just filling in the bear a little bit more. This color we're actually going to be using the most of, so we're going to get a nice blend right along the edge of that W5, and then kind of do a heavy flick so that way it just leaves a little bit of white showing for that nice highlight with the W1. So this time I'm going to start filling in the little arm. And with this color too, I'm going to give a little bit of a shadow onto the front part of his face. So we just have a little bit left for the W1. We're going to go ahead and blend out the W1 on his face, or I'm sorry, the W3 right here, and fill it in completely. And then fill in the rest of him so that there's no more white showing. Now, if it's not blended out good enough for you, I always say go back and add a second coat, or you can just go back with your middle color if you don't want to add too many layers, if you're afraid of bleeding outside of your lines. So go back with the middle color and just give a couple little flicks so it blends nicely into that W1. And then we're going to take the W7, we're going to color in his nose. So I'm coloring in the bottom part, and then we're going to take the W5 and fill it in. Alright, so now we are all ready to die cut our images and put them on our card. Okay, so I have all my images here and some foam dots. We're going to attach them using the foam dots so we can have some extra dimension. So we're going to go ahead and stick this one right here, and then we'll take our little bear and add him right next to the tree. And then the clouds will be in the center, also on some foam dots, so that way we get that nice dimension. Make sure when you do, you make sure the shadow's underneath on the bottom. Okay, so now we are all ready for our sentiment. Okay, so I went ahead and added my sentiment straight onto the white cardstock. I love the little quirky puns, your friendship makes life bearable. That's just super, super cute. So I really hope you enjoyed this card. I actually created another card very similar to this using a couple of different images. But as you can see here, I went ahead and instead of using the tree as a tree, I used it as a tree branch and put the little owl on there. So super, super fun cards using this fun galaxy technique and this Big Hugs circular die and the new stamp set. So I hope I have inspired you and you enjoyed this month's tutorial. Thank you so much for watching and have a wonderful day.